Here we are. We are live in the Chargeheads studio for another, or Chargeheads garage for another YEV, chaps.
Why not?
Why not?
Yeah, I've got double effort here. I'm gonna have to widescreen you guys. So yeah, it's great to have you on. And while we wait for a few people to jump on, how was NEC Classic Car Show today? Seeing as though we're talking about classic cars today.
Busy, very busy actually. It was surprisingly so. It's we hear an awful lot of doom and gloom about no cash and all the rest of it. It seemed lots going on. Didn't seem any quieter than usual. Usual kind of quite high trade stand prices there and stuff. So
couple of EVs there.
Yeah,
Renault 5.
It was. What EVs were there? Because I was told that there were going to be none.
New Renault 5 on the Renault kind of club stand. Cyberster on the MG stand.
Any classic EVs though? Come on, let's keep it relevant, chaps. Come on.
There was a Sinclair C5 Owners Club.
Yeah.
So people say about can they be collectible?
There was definitely some
compromised EV, but it was collectible.
There was definitely some BSA Aerial 3s there. I did see that there might be a couple of there. I'm not sure if you fell over any.
No, just those.
No. There's one just here. Can you just hear it? Hang on. There we go. It's my horn. Today we are going to be talking about are all classic cars fair game for electrifying? And I'm well up for this event, or this live, sorry. And because it's a subject that's very, very, very important to me, as I'm sure you guys can probably work out. So I'm sure today at the NEC, there are some amazing classic cars. Let's start with the NEC, bearing in mind it's quite fresh because it's this weekend and you guys have literally this minute come back from there. Long journey back. So thanks guys for joining. Were there any classic cars today that you saw you thought, I wouldn't electrify that. I wouldn't electrify that.
So this is where I have a different opinion to Alex. Because,
and surprisingly so.
Yeah, I wouldn't electrify an RX-7 because I think the RX-7 part of its character is the rotary engine. But you have a different opinion on that.
Yeah, we had a bit of a discussion about this earlier, and actually the interesting thing was that my red lines are a lot further off into the distance than Kev's are. I'm actually less up. I'm less bothered about preserving. I guess that kind of figures, but I'm actually less bothered about preserving things than Kev on this front. So it's I thought it was quite an interesting kind of discussion. But yeah, we can go into more on that front. But yeah, I have an interest in electrifying an RX-7, which is one of those things that's either going to people will be like, oh, that's a great idea, or what are you doing, you absolute maniac, like why on earth would you do that? There's plenty of ones with I'm quite happy with one with a standard engine. I wouldn't necessarily buy a good one to electrify it, but I think it'd be really interesting because of the layout on it and the way that it's effectively mid-engine. You get the battery within the wheelbase and the put electric motor at the back. You've got quite an interesting car there.
It's a good starting point because on one hand you could argue that for a classic car, it's not that classic, but it is retro classic now, that you should really be focusing on the vehicles with the unreliable engines. And although a lot of people say that Wankel engines are unreliable, it's really down to maintenance with those things. But then could kind of potentially agree with the crowd that say don't electrify it because the Wankel engine is really, really light and it's really well known for its handling. And that was, funnily enough, I nearly bought an RX-7 before buying the Griffith, which would have done me a lot better from a residual point of view, although not now because I hear classic car prices are crashing somewhat. So yeah, that is a really good starting point. The RX-7. I'm taking it you're talking about is it the FD? Yeah, that's it.
The curvy one.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful car. Beautiful car. Were there any other cars that you saw today where you're like, I think I'd leave the inefficient, smelly thing in there?
See, this is where I think these classic car shows have moved on. Because there's not many what I class as vintage cars in these things now. There's lots of stuff from the 80s and 90s, lots of DATs. There's loads of stuff which were cars when I was a kid, which makes me feel really old, the fact of the classic. And there's loads of Japanese stuff. Like, I don't think I'd convert something like an Evo or a Impreza STI because, again, part of its character was the tech of its era, being able to do all that clever stuff. I mean, we don't, well, an EV can do all that stuff easily, but that's kind of, it was all the sort of early kind of computer technology to, you know, transfer of power, you know, yaw control and all that sort of clever stuff, which is, you know, lots of EV, you know, Ioniq 5N, for example, is going to have all that tech.
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, while we're chatting away, anyone that's listening in, please whack in the comments what car you wouldn't or would electrify, because it'd be really interesting to get some feedback, and we can discuss the cars as we go. So there are a few no-goes from my point of view, and the one that comes to mind straight away, and it's something that Chris from Felton agrees with me on, is the Ferrari F40. A bit of a pin-up car from my point of view. You could argue that it would be, and I know that Moggy from Electric Classic Cars has converted some Ferraris recently, the Testarosses, etc. But the F40, I mean, first of all, it's bloody expensive. So, I mean, fair enough, if it's a kit car, it's fair game. And that's one reason why I thought the Cobra was quite a good thing to put on the thumbnail, because that Cobra wasn't a classic car. That was actually a kit car. And a lot of people gave it a load of hate, that video. It got a lot of views, but they didn't realize that actually it was a brand new kit car, not a classic. Oh, you've ruined it, all the rest of it. But as far as I'm concerned, like a Ferrari F40 would be, you know, that would be sacrilege as far as I'm concerned. What about you guys? Are there any cars that you were thinking that is in that space?
I think my red lines are pretty similar to combustion engine swaps, actually. I mean, I would say that anything that I would swap a petrol engine into, I would be happy to swap an electric motor into. One of the things we actually were talking...
That's a good point, actually. Yeah.
I mean, from where I'm standing, I mean, I do a lot of... I write an awful lot for Performance VW magazine. I have done for ages. And there are a few EV conversions starting to appear on the scene. And that's, you know, an interesting, you know, it's nice to see that it's starting to be embraced. I've seen some Tesla powered Golfs, and there was a mad 6N Polo with a kind of a full Porsche inspired overhaul, which was fully electric, just a mad build. So it's gaining traction. But we were talking about the Audi Quattro. Now, I wouldn't convert an original Audi Sport Quattro to anything other than what it was. But equally, when I've thought about in my head how I would attack a regular, you know, long wheelbase Quattro, I've always thought that maybe I'd stick on like a more modern version of the inline 5 in it. And then
hang on. You said you would do with an RX-7, but you wouldn't with an Evo. This is. I mean, you could argue that's controversial in itself, mate.
But sorry, what?
You could argue that's controversial in itself, that you would convert an RX-7 but not a Audi Quattro.
No, I wouldn't touch an Audi Sport Quattro. So the short wheelbase, the really limited edition rare one, the kind of the homologation special, the standard one. I've always thought with one of those, I want to build one, and I'd want to build it to my own spec. And I've always thought with those, I'd maybe stick in a later inline 5 engine and sort of look at what, you know, what parts are available from the parts bin. And then I started thinking earlier, actually, there are a few people who've kind of shortened the wheelbase on those themselves. And actually, some kind of proper, full-on, mad, retro-styled Audi Quattro. If you're starting out with a basic Audi Coupe or an Audi, you know, not one of the kind of the limited number Sport Quattros, I think you could make quite an interesting, actually, electric, retro modern electric, you know, classic body shell with a modern, you know, dual motor setup in that. But yeah, the Sport Quattro is so rare and so special that it would be. I think I'd struggle to pull one of those apart.
Well, before we answer commuter branch line, thanks for chipping in. Sort of comment there is, I think it goes without saying. Then I think if it's rare, are there any rare cars? And we'll talk about this after this comment. And you guys think about this for a second. Are there any rare cars that you would electrify? Because I think that's where it kind of boils down to. If it's a rare car, you don't really want to be electrifying it. But commuter branch line, I love old Land Rovers, but not the reliability and cost. They think they're prime candidates for electrification. Absolutely. And there's probably, I would say, the volume of those particular probably the biggest. It'd be interesting to speak to someone like Moggy or something like that, but I reckon Defenders are probably the most electrified ICE vehicle Going out on a limb there, I'm pretty sure that I'm confident with that. I'll put some money on that, like I would have done with Trump. Did I see a VW T5 with the Tesla battery and powertrain? That was at the Fully Charged live show. There's a video. My last video did a bit of information gathering on that. So check out my last video from Wednesday. T5. Yeah, she was Tesla Model 3 motor and batteries, the full battery pack. Really interesting, and it's for sale, funnily enough. So check that out, guys. Sorry, there's more coming. Commuter line has not finished. An old DS would be a cracking EV conversion. Yep, I know of 2 that have been converted, actually. One by Electrogenic and another one, I think we spoke to him recently, didn't we, chaps? Who was the other person? Can't remember the company now. First car I drove, not a Morris Minor. Conversion to EV would lose its soul, I feel. Well, there's quite a few Morris Minors converted, Grandpa Chargeheads. So yeah, I'm not sure about that. What about you, chaps? I mean,
I think
the rare side of it.
You mentioned the DS. Actually, many of the cars in the Back to the Future film, I do. So I did the DS because the DS. There's one with a hover conversion in the Back to the Future 2.
I never noticed that.
Yeah. I
never noticed that.
Yeah, there's a DS, but the DeLorean DMC-12, it's going to work much better than the original. Might actually do 88 miles an hour better.
Well, you say that. I know that one of the keen Chargeheads, Paul Compton, legendary EV converter, has actually told me that those engines are actually all right. It's just they were so detuned, they were just pants. But those engines are actually supposed to be pretty good. In fact, it's the same engine they put in the Renault Alpine, believe it or not.
Mate of mine's got a turbocharged version of it.
I need to meet him. I need to go out in one.
Well, he's quite easy to find. If you look up Huddersfield Town Hall, Back to the Future Day in 2015, him and his mate with a bay window camper. The Huddersfield Town Hall looks like the clock tower from Back to the Future. So they turned up. He's got a sign writing business, and he's got all the accessories. He's got the proper camcorder. He's got a hoverboard, the radiation suits, all the other. It's worth looking up. Yeah. Yeah.
So what
version of that engine?
So we've mentioned the DS as a rare car. What other cars that are rare do you think are fair game?
I tell you one that would be a kind of a sad one to lose the combustion engine. Although actually it might be quite an interesting. The reason the the RX-7 always pops up into mind is I've written about a few of them that have been V8 swapped, and I think the V8 7 is a cool car. Yeah. I think it's cool in a different way. I think the Wankel engine I'm really interested in as a tech, just because it's just so off the wall. Like the whole thing is mental. But actually a V8 swapped RX-7 very much appeals. There's a lot of them that are around that are swapped. There's a lot of them with knackered engines, which is why I've always kind of thought that might be an interesting one. But I guess it kind of goes against me then saying 2 that I put into this, both from the same manufacturer. One is the S2000 and the other one's the NSX. I think would both be a shame to electrify.
I know that there is a large drive unit Tesla swap on an NSX, and there is a couple of electric S2000s out there, ironically. The VTEC engine has certainly got some character, isn't it?
I think this would probably be a controversial one for me. You talk about the DS, the SM.
Yeah.
How you get the hydraulics to work in an electric SM since everything's driven off them, I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean they managed to do it on the with Electrogenic. I think Electrogenic, they've done one and they're doing another one, but I think they did something with the hydraulics to make it work. So they did get it to work. It was just a bit more of an engineering pain in the backside, really. So yeah, it's I suppose it's, at the end of the day, if you own a car and you want to electrify it, it's going to happen. I suppose it's less likely if you've got the money to do it, and it's less likely if you're doing it to a rare car because you might not want to spoil the value of it.
Yeah. I mean, I think there was an interesting conversation about this on LinkedIn. I think a few months back. Who was it? I can't remember. He's somebody. He was a celebrity, and he's got a converted Rolls Royce.
Is that Jason Momoa?
Yes. And there was conversation about that, and he was saying, should he convert it or shouldn't he? And I was like, it's his car. Do what he wants to it. Really, it's a bit like buying a house and someone saying, oh, you can't rip out the original kitchen. Well, you can. If it's your house, you can rip out the original kitchen and do what you want with it. It's your house. I get the preservation side of things, but I think in his case it was fully reversible. And if someone was dead keen on putting the ice back into it later on, then they still can do it. So
I think that's where you get the stuff. All the stuff Everanti do is supposedly reversible, so you can convert the car back to its fueled powertrain. And they've done some. I mean, the Everanti stuff is so high end. If you've seen the Porsche, well, I saw the Porsche on the EV Rally, and I've seen the Mercedes, and it's like they are mint. But unfortunately, when you talk to people with them, because they've been converted in that way, you're not getting all the benefits of an EV conversion. So there are some limitations to it, I think. Whereas I think I'd rather do a proper, an EV conversion it may not be reversible, but it's done, with everything. It's kind of almost like a resto mod. I'd want to upgrade the brakes and stuff like that as well, not just rely on the older brakes and stuff.
So, yeah, that's a good point. There's certain upgrades that need to be done. Certainly, it's something that I'm looking to do on the TVR. EV Volvo 142 makes a really good point, actually. And he's noticed that there are more people who get angry than happy to see an electric converted car. His Volvo 142 1971, which will be ready soon. People are very angry that I'm converting it. I think that's a great car to convert. I know you could argue it's quite rare though.
It's cool. It's a cool car. That's very cool.
Have you seen that Auto Union vehicle that was converted to electric with a leaf motor?
No.
It's on my I think it's on most of the start of my videos. I zoom in and it's the Auto Union. It was Johnny Smith Late Break Show live a while back. I did a video and that was mint. And that car's got to be rare as rocking horse poo as far as I'm concerned. Auto Union. And if people don't know what Auto Union is, the Audi rings, they make up lots of different companies. And Auto Union was one of those rings. I can't remember what the other ones were now. Porsche and
Wanderer and God, I can't remember the last one, but yeah.
And this is why Alex is so good to have on the podcast.
My glasses at my nose.
Yeah, absolutely. Have any of you guys heard the news that the Scottish EV maker Munro EV, they plan to bring out an off-road Land Rover EV for farm, forestry and proper outdoor work and then promptly disappeared? I was at a couple of shows next to them and I don't think they're doing terribly well. But I don't know what the situation is with them currently. So yeah, I don't think they're doing Land Rovers. They're doing their own purpose-built vehicle. One of the Lotus cars. Which one? Lotus car. I think all Lotus cars are fair game.
Yeah, because they weren't necessarily the most reliable of cars. Maybe an Elise with the K series, which wasn't great.
And there's a few of those around.
Yeah, maybe not the Toyota one because that probably works better. But
there's also one of those around which I've driven, and it was flipping amazing. Absolutely amazing. So I think there is merit that you can improve these cars. Yes, you can improve the brakes. Obviously, you can't improve the safety on classic cars so much, but you can certainly improve and this is why a lot of, some people do it for the reliability. Some people do it, to make it more of a daily driver. Some people just want to do it because they're just crazy and they just want to build something a bit mad. And I think there are a few other reasons. I think those are probably the two main reasons, aren't they? Just being able to have a reliable classic car, and because they just want to see what can be done, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, I think we should maybe draw up a mental list of vehicles that are perfect classic cars to convert to electric.
Actually, speaking of classic cars, there was another EV we saw at the show. The Moke, the new electric Moke was there.
The electric Moke. Oh, okay, yeah. I saw that at I think it's Festival of Speed. Yeah, I think it's a pretty price thing. Lotus Europa, yeah. Every Lotus, do them all.
I thought of another one I wouldn't do.
Okay, go on.
Lancia Delta Integrale.
That's an
Good shot. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good shout. So what rally? Obviously, rally cars are they're quite close to us because it's very much our kind of. We're talking about the 90s ones and 80s ones. Are there any rally cars that we wouldn't electrify?
Wouldn't or would?
Wouldn't.
Quite a few. It depends.
Okay,
I mean,
sorry, I meant would. Sorry.
I mean, I think. I mean, again, if you're starting with if you're dealing with a genuine kind of a raced, full fat with a motorsport history, although a lot of them get mucked around with and swap engines and gearboxes and have been built at some point anyway. So how much of that history you're actually driving when you're driving one, I don't know. But there's lots of cars that you could recreate in that style. We talked about the Quattro earlier. I mean, can you imagine doing like a Metro 6R4, but starting with like a basic Metro, but building your own 6R4 with like a Tesla system in the back of that? That'd be really cool.
Well, there's Celica GT4s, plenty of those around.
Yeah. Another one I do, which you probably wouldn't expect me to do, is a Stratos.
Yeah, Stratos.
I was thinking Stratos.
I'd do a Stratos, but I wouldn't do a Delta Integrale. So
yeah, well, I mean, they do that repurposed Stratos, don't they? The kit car, the chaps in Holland, isn't it, with the Alpha V6 engine in it?
And you've got the E-Legend, the modern Audi Quattro as well, which is a gorgeous thing.
Yeah. So let's summarise with that. Then rally cars, majority if they're a proper rally car and it's more of a limited edition, they're not to be touched. If it's a rare car, more than likely it's not going to be touched unless the value isn't that much.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, there's rare kind of, Festival of the Unexceptional Rare where we're
nobody cares.
Down to a handful. Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting how this came up in the comments earlier. It's interesting how precious people are about the original engine when it comes to EV conversions, whereas they're often not with kind of modern engine swaps. The number of cars you see, kind of classic hot rods where they've got modern, crate engines in them. You stick a Hellcat motor in a Charger, and everyone's like, not everyone, but a lot of people are like, oh, that's cool. You stick the same power in it and it's electric, and it gets quite a different reaction. Obviously, the V8 noise is part of that, but it's a very different engine. It's going to drive very differently with a modern engine in it. Anyway, you're taking some of that character away anyway.
Well, something that there's a chap over in Germany who is converting a Nissan GTR. I think it's the 32 from memory, and he's putting a Hyper 9 motor in it.
Ah, cool. Yeah.
Which isn't very powerful.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's like 120 brake motor.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Hyper 9 motor is not very powerful. It's like equivalent 170 brake horsepower, I suppose. So yeah, it's so I think if you're electrifying something, it needs to be, in my opinion, the same power, if not better. And when I say same power, it needs to have the same power, but get there a lot quicker, if that makes sense.
I suppose we're following combustion engine swap rules again, aren't we? Because you wouldn't bother putting a less powerful combustion engine in your car in most cases.
It's a very good point.
Unless you're that guy, and I think it was Austria, who got an Audi A4 Avant and he put a 2-stroke Trabant engine in the front of it. Unless you're slightly nuts, you're not going to put less powerful. Yeah.
Isn't there that guy in the States that put a chainsaw engine in a original Insight?
Really?
He's on YouTube, yeah, and it's like a little. He's tried putting the engine to die, so he's put small little engines in to see how much power he can get out of it. So it's like one of the lawnmower engine to see if he get it to move, because it's quite an efficient shape. Whereas I'd be putting an electric one in that. I mean, my thing is that the original Honda Insight, you could probably consider that a classic now.
Yeah, definitely. But then, then that's another one that I'd probably be quite happy to bugger around with, because I think it's quite an interesting car to
We spoke about this last week, Alex.
No, I know.
I know the week before, sorry, because I wasn't here, was I? So, yeah, no, it's interesting. While I've got a few people in the room, I will, if people are wondering why I've got T-shirts around me, I have got the new additions. I'm going to plug it now, guys. We've got the black Chargeheads t-shirt just here, nicely modelled. I'll get some model t-shirt. We've got the full colour one here, and we've got the plain black one. So yeah, £10 a t-shirt if you pick them up or come to a meet and grab them, or it's £10 plus postage. Now the colour one's more expensive, but to be fair, it's limited run. So get them in. Email chargeheads@gmail.com. We need more money for Chargeheads content at the moment. So please support the channel by buying the merch. There we go. Sorry, guys. So yeah, so I think that's quite a good summary there. The fact that, you know, leave off the rare ones, same sort of rules as swapping out, you know, one petrol engine for another. We were just about to start a mental list of probably the vehicles that are probably the best ones to electrify. Oh, we got a question, but just before we do that, save that. What do you think we can do to make people think this is as cool as putting a V8 in our cars? That is a flipping good question. Alex, you go first and I'll go. And obviously Kevin as well. Sorry.
I had quite an interesting conversation, again, possibly one that I've mentioned before, with the guys over at Bisimoto over in California about this, and they were saying it's a case of just it's time. A lot of it is you'll always have a noisy group of people who will say never, you know, who will be dyed in the wool. Just as there are people now who think that anything you do to a car that modernizes it is ruining it. You know, you're going to have people who will never agree with it, and that's fine. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. But the guy was saying that people need to realize how much you can do with these, where you can just push as long as you can cool them, you can push the power quite a long way. You haven't got to worry about emissions regulations. You've got all sorts of kind of things that you can do, and you can set up all sorts of controls in software and really make this. You don't have to have it driving like, you know, an off-the-shelf EV. You can set it up to deliver the power how you want it to deliver the power, and you can do a lot of stuff in controls that you don't have the ability to do with a petrol or diesel engine. You can really change the character of it. So it's that kind of ability to just have this blank slate to really kind of tailor the car to your own tastes, and just kind of get people behind the tech and just the possibilities that come with it, and the fact that it's different and that it's high performance and that it can be really enjoyable and characterful in its own way. And I think that's it. It's just trying to get people past that whole white good term, you know, that you can do things that are different with it and they're not all the same, and that, you know, get people used to the fact that they'll make noise and it'll be different to an engine, just in the same way that engines make all sorts of different noises and so on. Yeah, I think it's just getting people to understand what you can do with them, and the fact that the technology is improving all the time and offering more scope for getting them into kind of smaller and you know, more interesting packages. So,
Kev, what do you reckon?
And I think it goes back to, you know, what we were saying before. You know, when people said that comment that you can't have electric cars will never be classics. I mean, walking around the show, what did we see? Marinas. Allegros, all these things. Let's be honest. People say electric cars cannot be. There was the Citroen Sinclair C5 Owners Club who had a massive stand. And let's just say that's a very compromised EV.
They did have a really good stand last year, to be fair. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, I think they can be classics, and I think, as Alex said, it's time. People just. It's the people who've grown. You know, the kids now that grow up. You know, when I had a Tesla on my drive. I had a Mustang Mach-E and a Tesla Model Y on my drive. And my wife's friends wanted to sit in and see the Tesla. It's like, so there's all these kids that are growing up with the electric cars and stuff who are going to say, well, that was cool when I was a kid, so I'm going to put an electric motor in it and stuff like that. And there'll be people modding the electric motors that are already in the cars.
Now, before I actually answer his question, which is what can we do? Before I answer that, I'm going to say that I completely agree with both of you. Time and you know, I think it's promoting it, and, you know, bums on seats, that analogy that we use in the motor trade a lot. And also, obviously, it's a bit of a political hot potato because, you know, on one side we've got, you know, pushing a green agenda, environmentalists, and then on the other we've got, you know, people that want to keep using fossil fuels, and so there's there's quite a lot of it's a bit polarizing the subject at the moment. So, and I think it's that time element, and I think it will, it will improve as more exciting cars come out. What can we do to make more people think it's as cool? This is what I'm trying to do. Chargeheads, trying to build an exciting electric car, modifying electric cars, getting more of a buzz. That's what we can do. We can show what can be done. What you can do, you can electrify a classic Volvo, make it interesting. It's like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's what we can do. We can show what is possible, and just push the barriers. That's what we can do. I don't know if you guys agree with that, or if there's anything else you think we can do as well as that.
I mean, I think from where I'm sat, I mean, having kind of followed the Volkswagen scene for the last 25 to 30 years, and seen that going from your highly tuned, naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engines through the VR6 era into the then getting into the 1.8 turbo, then getting into the supercharged VR6s and the turbocharged VR6s, and now starting to see some of the electric stuff kind of coming in as well, and that the TSIs as well. You got Golf Rs with kind of ridiculous supercar horsepower. The power is much more accessible these days, and it's just there's people kind of get on board with the fact that the tech's changed and you do different things with it, and they start to appreciate the 2-litre TSI engine, the Volkswagen engine, is a great engine, but it's not an interesting engine in and of itself until you start to muck around with it and you realise that it's the foundations of something interesting. It's what you build on top of it that's the interesting part, and what you put it into as well.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So you're going to say something, Kev?
Yeah, I think it's more about, we were talking about this in the show, is when you look at bringing more of that 80s excess into the electric cars, like you look at the 80s turbocharged cars, and how big was the lettering down the side saying turbo? You don't have that big thing, the big sticker down the side saying electric, do you? Where you had,
they don't.
Yeah,
it's a bloody good idea. I don't think I should put electric down the side of my Tesla because it's a little bit obvious. But
down your TV side of your TVR, instead of turbo, just put the big letters electric instead.
Well, yeah, playing with ideas. I think get it running and reliable and all the rest of it before I start putting the big wings and full body kit on. I do want it to be usable as well, not scraping on everything, which is what my Tesla was annoyingly doing to go and get a key for this OZ split rim cap cover thing. And you'll love this, Alex, although this is massively off topic, but this guy that I picked off this random part of, from, he had the mintest VW Golf Mark II GTI in grey, 3-door sunroof, big bumpers, looked an absolute peach. It was lovely, absolutely lovely. Because on Chargeheads we like all cars, don't we? Yeah. We don't just focus on electric cars. I know we talk about electric cars a lot, but that's what the channel's about, for goodness sake, So yeah, we were going to make that mental list. Mini, straight away, classic Mini.
Yeah, I think.
Defender, obviously.
I think the other thing that we're stepping back slightly. Sorry, is the taking away the black and the white and not making it and realizing that actually most people are in the grey. It's not about ICE or EV. There's a bit of both. And there's value.
And there's always going to be people that hate EVs. There's always going to be people that hate EVs.
There's plenty of people, and a growing number of people who think. There was a French politician who said about 10 years ago that we need to get we will reach a position where the combustion engine is the new smoking, and it will be antisocial to pollute in city centres, because it'll be seen as I think perceptions of the combustion engine will change, and it will become more of a kind of a niche hobby, and people will just get used to the EV side of things. Anyway, when there's
the popcorn map on every single turbo car, turning it into the C-bomb spec, it's just like, I think people are getting a bit tired. I know a lot of car people, it's like, but I think a lot of car people are like, it's just, I'm not sure what your thoughts are on that particular one, but commuter branch line is getting in the comments again. Good lad. I think more accessibility to EVs will help. I recently met 2 people that were vocally anti-EV, and they've seen it as elite and being forced upon them. It will come with time. Yeah, I mean, you look at, I knew I was going to talk about it. You look at the American potential scene that's going on. Obviously, Trump won. Elon's in there. I'm sure going to be pushing the EV message and sustainability as well, I'm sure. So it's not all going to go to pieces for electrification. But I think that is going to be more what they're going to do over there. It's going to be, okay, like forget all the incentives, forget everything. If an EV works for you, which quite a lot of people it will work for, then they'll go and get one. If they don't want to get one, they won't. And I think that's what will happen in America. And I think maybe, is that the right thing? I don't know, because I don't know how much effect electrification and pushing electrification is going to make a difference to, yes, it's going to make a difference to clean air. Is it really going to make any difference to the environmental impact compared to many other things? I don't know. It's an interesting subject, that one. So I think maybe it's a question of seeing how the EV adoption progresses and accelerates in America, because it does seem to be. I mean, the modified EV scene in America is huge. So I think a lot of people are starting to see, actually, it's pretty damn cool.
Did you see the Geely Cybertruck at SEMA this week?
I didn't. Did you see the electric Ferrari Dino?
No, I missed that.
Yeah, it had some god-awful front headlights with the cooker rings on. I was thinking, I purposely tried to find lights that weren't cooker ring for the TVR, because it's just so MX-5. I like MX-5s, but it's so like, it's a bit done, isn't it? Yeah, but there we go. Come on, guys. Let's people who's listening, if you can write a comment, if you can, whack in some more cars for us. Any cars that you wouldn't electrify, whether that's down to your own personal opinion, or if you've got some real kind of good reasoning why you shouldn't electrify it. Obviously, there's going to be certain cars that you remember and you think, oh, I wouldn't electrify that, probably from a personal opinion, because you kind of have experience with it. Any cars that you guys can think of like that, where you think, oh, do you know what, that it really works well, that engine really works well with that car? I don't think I would do that, although it probably will happen. So
would you do a Jaguar XJ220 to electrify one?
Oh, that's an interesting one. That falls the red thing, doesn't it? But that is
but it's not the engine it was promised with. So
what was it promised with? Because it had the 6R4 engine in it, didn't it?
Yeah, but it was supposed to have a bespoke one, wasn't it, for it, which they never finished in time.
Well, I first saw that at the British Motor Show in like '92 when it first came out in Birmingham. That was, for me, that was the halo car that was at that event, and it's still amazing. George, now I know exactly. I'm not even going to read his comment, but I know what it's going to say. Yep, any car can be converted so long as they're reversible. It's entirely up to the owner, no one else. There we go. I know George would have weighed in. It's great to have you commenting, mate. Thanks for joining us, because I know that George is a big believer in the electrification. Funny that he's got an EV conversion business. TC was a twin turbo 6R4 engine. I believe it was, wasn't it, in the Jag J220?
It was quite an amazing thing to get to go out in that.
It's another one which we were talking about on the way there. The Bill Gates special car, Porsche 959. Rare car. I wouldn't have it in it, but
why is it the Bill Gates special? Did he pay lots of money to get it, or
shipped it over to the States and they wouldn't let him take it in? So he's the reason for the grandfather rules in the States, where you have to wait 25 years before the cars can be taken into the States. It wouldn't meet emissions laws, but you have you have a period of time after which you can export stuff. So, and it's because of him. Before that, it wasn't allowed at all.
Well, Bill Gates has done lots of naughty things. I'm sure we're going to find out about those naughty things in the next coming months or two.
You mentioned about personal experience and vehicles that you wouldn't electrify because the engine fits. I don't think I would, but
wouldn't call it an E40 then.
It could be interesting, but I'd probably start from scratch if I was going to do something like that. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't. I think a G40 is that rare. I mean, how many G40s are on the road?
About 60.
Oh, there's another comment, which is an interesting one.
Yeah,
what do you think about the Dodge Viper? Dodge Viper without V10. The whole thing about that car is the engine anyway.
It's just a van engine anyway. Sorry, it's just a truck engine. It's not anything.
Now, I'm going to jump into this one because everybody, the large majority of people that I speak to when I say that I'm converting a TVR, mainly TVR owners or people that want a TVR that don't own or have never owned a TVR, say that a TVR is all about the engine and the noise. Now, I didn't, and people may aghast at this, but I didn't buy the TVR necessarily for its noise or the engine. I bought it because it was exciting. It was, and yeah, you could argue that the noise is part of that, but it was just the fact that it was trying to kill me. That was why I bought that car. And everyone talks about the noise and all the rest of it. Obviously, it's not that it's trying to kill you aspect for them, probably because they're just pussies and they're not driving it fast enough. But yeah, that, and I think the same argument is with the Dodge Viper. I think that would be a really cool car to electrify. Certainly lots of space, a hell of a lot of space. Did you see that 4x4 one that who's the guy in America that did the off-road one?
I've not seen that.
Oh god, he's quite a famous YouTuber, so famous I've forgotten his name. Who remembers his name? Whack it in the comments. So yeah, I think a Dodge Viper can be electrified.
But everyone has Dodge Vipers in the States. You know, if you watch Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, teenagers driving around in Dodge Vipers, aren't they? Against grey American cars that.
That's such a good scene. I love that scene. That is a really cool movie. I can drift.
Be a beautiful thing to have around the house as well. The original Viper engine would be just a gorgeous thing to have.
Make a table out of it.
Make a table out of it and keep it.
Super fast Matt.
Oh man, yeah. It's not bad for an NB Miata.
Yeehaw! Yeah, it does look like a Miata. I never even noticed that.
Designed by the same guy.
No shit.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I never knew that. That's interesting. Okay.
Reminds me a bit of the Ice Charger from Fast and Furious.
Yeah,
because that's a big knobbly tired upgrade and stuff.
Yeah,
but the thing is, if you look at that, I mean, that's presumably got the original engine, right? I assume.
Yeah, I think it's still got the normal engine. He's just turned it into an off-road beast. That guy's has electrified vehicles though, like old school Jaguar and some other random stuff. I think you'd enjoy his channel. Actually, you should check it out.
Yeah, no, I was going to say with that, you could argue that hacking big tires into the bumpers and into the wheel wells and turning it into an off-roader is taking away the character of that car. That's going to drive like a very different vehicle afterwards. It's just interesting that kind of people. We were going back to what we were saying earlier, that people kind of are more open to certain kind of. I think there's an EV specific kind of hurdle that people have in terms of kind of what's cool at the moment, and I think that'll dissolve with time. I just think there's an there's got to be an open-mindedness to modifying that transcends anything to do with what you put in the tank or the battery, where you get the power from. Fast cars are cool, right? And EVs can make a car go really, really fast, and you can do some really cool stuff with them. And I think once people start to realise that, assuming we're not banned from driving our own cars because everything's autonomous and all the rest of it by that point, I'm being stirring. People will find new things that they can do with those, and they'll be exciting too. There's lots of going back to what I was saying about kind of writing about Volkswagens. I mean, the number of Mark II Golfs I've written about where they've got modern 5-cylinder engines and TSI engines and stuff in them, and those are very different engines to the ones they would have had out of the factory. And those cars will drive very differently, but they're really cool. They're kind of proper modern, usable. Mark II Golf GTI engines were not very reliable or anything, but proper usable high performance cars that you can enjoy every day. And if you're enjoying the way that it looks and it feels, it's your car, as George was saying. It's your car to do as you please.
Here's
They can take our Priuses, but they can't take our Ford Focus ST, sorry. Probably got STI. So
they did have a Ford Focus STD, didn't they?
Did they really?
Yeah, they had a diesel version of it.
They did. Yeah, I had one on test. Yeah, they did have one. The STTTI. Right, yeah.
AC code was no hardship for me electrifying, but so is a V6 kit version. Got to be a big lumpy V8. Yeah. Do you know what? Going back to that Dodge Viper, Ralph kept on saying about making the TVR into an off-road electric TVR. Maybe that's stage 2 of the TVR conversion. I drive it and I'm like, handles like a bag of shit because these batteries are in way too high and it's just handles awful. What can we do with it? Let's stick some massive tires on it and turn it into that would be pretty cool though, wouldn't it?
That would be pretty cool, yeah.
That would be cool. The first electric TVR and then the first off-road TVR. Yeah, maybe that's stage 2. You heard it here first. Keep it under wraps. Don't tell anyone.
You need to design the full drive system for it as well. Stick a motor in each end.
Steer with the power, mate. That's what you need to do.
I thought of another EV conversion, which a lot of people would frown upon. Do you remember the Ford Supervan 1, the original one?
Yeah.
Which was the old one. The powertrain from the Supervan 4.2 in it.
That would be pretty scary.
What 2,000 brake horsepower is enough? It isn't enough for everyone, is it?
That would be actually quite an interesting. Again, going back to
because that was a Formula One engine, wasn't it?
No, it's GT40 engine.
Was it GT40?
Yeah. So yeah, that would be.
Would you do a GT40?
Not an original GT40. That's very much in that rare, isn't it?
But Everati have done GT40s. So I don't think they're originals. They must be.
I doubt they'd be original ones. You'd be a brave person to do a conversion in an original GT40.
I don't think
Gullwing Merc.
Oh yeah, that too.
Haven't they done? No, they've done a similar Merc, haven't they?
But again, if you can afford a Gullwing Merc, you can afford to do everything to it and then do everything to put it back, even if you start chassis to bits.
Oh, I've seen one. An electric Gullwing Merc.
I've not seen that.
It is like fully done. I mean, I can't think how much the person spent on it, but it was like Tesla powered and all the rest of it. Yeah, it's late for the party, mate. Come on now. It's tardiness. Well, dock your points for that. Now you're gonna have to pay extra for the Chargeheads t-shirt, Fox and Follies.
They want the camper van of the Reliant Fox in the classic car show. Camper van conversion on it.
There we go. Nicely timed there. I was just thinking about vans, right? Because I know that there's a lot of EV conversions on the VW transporters and all the rest of it. What other classic like vans or that type? I'll tell you what it was. I saw a motorhome, and because our camper van is, we're probably going to sell the Chargehead support vehicle actually. So if anybody wants a 3-litre V6 petrol Toyota Alphard, then give me a shout. Probably about 13 grand. And so I saw this Ford Transit motorhome. I was thinking a Ford Transit EV conversion. I don't think anyone's done it yet, but that would fit so many motorhomes. So that could be a really good money maker. So these other things, I've given everyone ideas here. How difficult would it be to convert one of those to electric? Ford Tranny.
It's having enough battery in it to give it the range that you'd want, isn't it? I mean, I'm speaking as somebody who owns an aerodynamic van with an electric. It's not great for the range when you're dragging a brick around. But yes, it would be very cool.
But on the chassis, you could probably fit 200 kilowatts. You could probably put a couple of. You could probably put a Tesla Model 3 pack in it. 77 kilowatt hours. That would do at least 150 plus miles, which is normally enough.
Yeah.
Plug it into the camping plug.
You can live off grid as well with that. Just draw the power off the traction battery and live off it. Quite interesting, actually.
So I need to find a pre-2001 Ford Transit motorhome. Or think about finding something that's pre-2000 where there's a lot of them out there, and then blueprint an EV conversion kit. There it is. There's the moneymaker.
If I tell you a van I wouldn't do, is one of those comma vans because the wheels are far too inset.
I'm thinking that'd be quite cool.
Unless you want to go around the corner. I suppose the weight would be lower.
Okay, on a Mark II, it's high enough to sling batteries underneath. Mark II Transit, I'm guessing you're thinking about. I'm hoping so. I don't know the differences between Transit. I'm just thinking of the old school 90s one, personally.
I was thinking of Mark 1 and Mark 2 Transits would be very, very cool EV conversions.
Yeah, the ones with the bonnet and stuff.
I'm thinking purely from a business point of view here now, chaps. I'm thinking about what's the most on the road at the moment. Probably neither. Not many, actually. They're probably all broken. Although, like I said, I did see one today. There's
a very nice Mark 1 Transit around here. It's a yellow and white. It's a diesel one. You can tell it's a diesel one because the grill's different on the diesel one. It's a slightly, the diesel one's not quite as pretty. It's got kind of the grill pokes out more on it. But it's nice. It's really, really, really nice condition. I see it driving around. It's such a cool car, the Mark 1 Transit, van rather, the Mark 1 Transit. I'd love to. Yeah. Such a cool era.
Just think how many bands got their careers started with the Mark 1 Transit.
True. I much prefer American bands.
The Mark 1 Transit.
Yeah, and how many of those bands now still have people are still touring and have lots more money now, so they could pay for the Mark 1 Transit conversion.
That's true. They could hark back to their, yesteryear. But I mean, for me, it was all about the 80s vans and American vans, like the 18 van and, all the other weird ones with just the circular window on the side. Because I don't know if you guys have seen all the what, sorry?
GMC Van Dura, the 18 van.
Yeah. Yeah, very cool. So cool. Oh, that'd be cool to have one of those. I don't think I've ever seen a decent recreation one of those.
Yeah, some people would pity the fool that did that.
Someone would what?
Pity the fool.
You could pity the fuel, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Oh dear. Should we stop now? On that bombshell.
If you're doing camper, you could lift the floor in the back slightly for the and kind of you wouldn't be losing so much space it'd be a disaster, would you?
There we go. You put the GS 450 hybrid transmission Toyota one in the back. That would do it. Potentially be left alone.
We saw a lovely camper van for you for the for selling your Chargeheads merch out of the car show.
Was it yellow?
Garage and everything. It was only $500,000.
Oh, really? You have to send me the pictures later. That'd be great.
You have a truck license because it was quite big.
Yeah, big Volvo. Had a utility back of it with space for your bikes.
Yeah, nice. Literally, it's a camper van with a utility room separate.
Well, talking about selling Chargeheads merch, anyone that's listening right now, please check out 1st of December. We've got an EV meet. You don't have to have an EV. Just bring yourself down. I know there's going to be some cool EVs there, modified EVs, not just Teslas. I'm hoping there's going to be some EV conversions there as well. So if you're listening and you can make it to Weedon in Northamptonshire, that would be amazing. It's at Gasoline and Juice, which is actually a bit like a cafe in a machine. There's some really cool stuff there. There's free, computer driving. There's loads of there's a cafe there, all sorts. And I'll be selling these beauties. Yeah, I can manage to get another plug-in, another beauties, the Chargeheads black and white and the colour ones. There we go. So yeah, there we go. That's 2 plugs. You see how many I can get in before the end now, but making it relevant, which is important. So we talked about EV conversions and which ones we wouldn't do. I think we've got to think about the one that you'd like to do the most. Chaps, what is? I think I know Alex's, so I'm going to guess that it's going to be the Honda Insight.
2? No, 3. 3 including the Insight.
3.
So I want to do. Do you know what? One of them because I covered it at the start of the show, and you've given away the second one. I'll do the third one after you guys have had your time.
RX-7 and Honda Insight. Okay, Kev.
See, I know it's going to be an awful car.
Yeah, I am sitting down. Kev, yeah, carry on.
I know it's going to be an awful car to drive, and it's probably not great, and it would spoil my memories of it. But I still want to do a DeLorean, even though I know it's not going to be a great car to live with.
That would be cool. That would be very, very cool. And obviously, mine's TVR. So there we go. There's so many things that I would convert. We haven't got time. Just haven't got time. Alex, go on.
190E. I'd love to do a 190.
That is also my top 10, 100%.
Absolutely adore the 190E. And you could get really cool wheels made up, a bit like your covers in the background, that would look a little bit like the original hubcaps, proper OEM plus style, but like proper slightly larger than the original wheels, but very much in the style of it, really aerodynamic. You know, make them tall and narrow, modern EV type. Not that I've thought about this quite a lot, but yeah, no. 190E.
My mate used to have a Cosworth with like those sort of wheels, but like alloy sort of AMG style like that. And they were way too big for it, and it always rubbed, and the suspension was awful after we put those huge wheels on. You know, did it properly. Absolutely. Before we we've got another one here. We've got another one.
Lucky they'd sold the one that was on one of the dealer stands before.
Yeah, I could quite easily come away with a 190. I've got a thing for them.
Okay, yeah. I mean, there's so many cars, and that's the sort of car that it never really made much of a noise. So it's quite a good car to electrify. I really would love a Bronco as well. I'm more of a Bronco fan than a Defender fan. Go figure. There's a lot of American cars that I would electrify because I love American cars, but you just wouldn't have them in the UK because they're just so thirsty. So would love to do a Reliance Scimitar. Well, George Kinghorn was on earlier. You can talk to him because I think he's more or less finished the one that he was doing. That had a leaf drive unit in the rear of that rear-wheel drive. Nice. For me, it's a 1963 Ford Thunderbird. Space age styling. They made tons of them, and engines were mediocre.
Well said. Jeep Cherokee. Now, see, I only think of the Jeep Cherokee.
Oh, sorry, I missed you, TC. Sorry, mate. Yeah, Jeep Cherokee. Oh, that's good. I like that.
I think of one film, though, with the Jeep Cherokee, because I'm a child of the 80s. You must know which film has a chase scene in it. With a
which
Jeep
one is
Cherokee.
it again?
Which
one?
The Goonies.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. I've just thought of two others that I'd convert. Toyota Hilux Surf.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
And a Corvair.
Also cool. Yeah.
Mark II Granada. That's the name.
My dad's gone for a Jensen Interceptor. Oh, nice. Well, I think Moggy is doing a Jensen Interceptor, Grandpa Chargeheads. So maybe I'll have to get him to send you a picture or something. Got a great picture of me, my dad, and Moggy actually somewhere. Although there was a supercharged event, and it wasn't the best picture of my dad because he had a hat on, and then it was going back like he was some sort of cowboy, Billy the Kid or something. If you know what I mean. Fox Sand Follies. I have a Mark II Granada, which I've looked at with that in mind a few times. There we go.
I think which is a Mark II. Was the Mark II was still the square one, was it?
So don't know. It is a true story. I don't know what the Granada Mark II is. Let's just have a look. Granada Mark II.
Yeah, is that still the square boxy one, or is that classed as a facelift?
No, it's the version that everybody remembers before the rounded one.
All right, because I remember the rounded one because I was growing up with that when it looked a bit Sierra-like.
I mean, I'll pop it on the screen for the people that care, because why not? Window. Here we go. No, here we go. Let's share. Let's do. There we go. It's that one.
Oh,
yeah, another one.
Yeah, cool car. Very cool car. I'm sure there's loads of space for batteries in that chappy. There we go.
Whoa, we're doing that weird. To us.
Yeah, cosmic. Right, it's bang on 9 o'clock. Bang on 9 o'clock. Oh, yes, the estate one. Oh, yeah, the estate. That'd be a good one. Love. Yeah, there's something about the old school estates. I tell you what, also love a Volvo 340, and apparently you can fit Tesla small drive unit where the gearbox is, because the gearbox in the back.
Yeah, the back.
Yeah, I did have a 340 drift spec, tramp spec once.
Thinking that you've got me thinking 944s now, because they're the same, aren't they?
Yeah. Moggy highlighted. I was going to convert a 944, which would have been an easier conversion, because they did one on electric classic cars in one of the episodes. Check it out, because they said it was like the perfect car to do for a conversion on. obviously I went for UK spec, the hardest one and just a pain in the ass. So when the TVR turns into the electric off-road buggy, maybe then we'll do the 944 as the second project. They're still coming. They're still coming. Had a 340 belt drive by DAF. There we go. Belt drive auto. Nice.
Was that the first CVT gearbox?
I'm not sure. It's outside my wheel well.
Yeah, so are the wheels on the TVR, mate. But I will be wearing my Chargeheads t-shirt, of course. So don't forget to come to the black one. Looks really good. I reckon it really looked really good on you guys, actually.
No, I like the black one. I don't really do white t-shirts, but I like the black one.
Black one's good. Yeah, you can't beat a black t-shirt. Yeah, it was tenner, mate. Maybe I should start doing some YEV. So if there's enough people that want a YEV t-shirt, maybe we should start doing some of those as well. But let's, it's Chargeheads first. Then we get the YEV ones coming, I think. Or maybe we should just get one for us each. Yeah, that's probably more sensible. Right, guys. Thanks everyone for listening for the live today. Hopefully you've had fun and enjoy the content. And next week, what we're going to talk about? I don't think we know what we're talking about next week.
Questions that anyone from the
if anyone's keen to see what they'd like us to kind of thrash out on here,
let us know. Oh, and another thing as well, very importantly, tomorrow, I think it's coming out tomorrow, 99% sure, 8 o'clock, we've got I've got a video with Alex Johns from Altelium, and he does battery testing for EVs remotely for Teslas, and battery and drivetrain warranty for EVs out of manufacturer's warranty. And there is a special referral code which not only gives you a discount but also gets a small kickback to the Chargeheads crew. So please support that. And if you're looking for something like that, then great. It'll help everybody. So that will be amazing. So check that out. But thanks everyone for listening today. Yes, they invented the CVT and licensed it to all. There we go. Never knew that. Thanks, Roxanne Follies. So yeah, thanks everyone for listening today. It's a goodbye from me and a goodbye from
them.
And I'll see you next week. Don't forget, if you've got any subjects, chargeheads@gmail.com.